Hey there, Higher Hopes Counseling podcast listeners. This is Erin, and I'm so happy to be back with you. I wanted to talk to you today about how to analyze the people, namely the teenagers and children in your life who may be wayward. Some of you who have come to me already know that I see quite a few teens. It makes up a majority of my practice, and I love working with teens. I love working with their sweethearts, helping them get back on track, helping them sort out life. And life can be so tough for teenagers these days. I won't lie to you. The teen age years that I had are vastly different from our teens that are struggling these days. I don't think the problems are different, but I definitely think they are hyper-exposed to things, and hyper-exposed at such a younger age. I remember just recently this week speaking with a young person who is dealing with issues that I don't think we were exposed to, or my generation wasn't exposed to till about 15 or 16, and this young person is 11. So it's really a tough thing to watch the young people in our lives struggle so much with exposure to things at such a young age and at such a rapid pace. So first of all, if you are a parent or a grandparent raising children, or just a teacher, or so, not just a teacher and a teacher, but a teacher who is working with teens, just know that you're not alone in feeling this overwhelming feeling that I'm seeing when it comes to how do we deal with these things that kids are dealing with. You know, we look in their sweet little faces and we are talking about things like suicide and sexual activity and homosexuality. We're talking about all of these issues, and they've got chubby little cheeks and they haven't even lost their baby fat yet. And for me, that's a struggle because I feel like I'm bringing more bad news, more wary conversation to the brain of a child, but at the same time, they're already being exposed by their friends, by the media, by their social circles. It's everywhere. It's pervasive. And it's persuasive. So that's one thing we have to realize. It's not just pervasive. It's not just something they're seeing and then walking away from. It is persuasive, and it's getting into their fiber of their beings, and it's taking over parts of their lives and causing major issues. So I want to encourage anyone who is raising children right now, or is helping to raise children through education or any other means, that you're not alone in what you're seeing and feeling. It is overwhelming, and it's scary to know what to do and how to do it and when to say it and how to say it. So I want to encourage you to know that you're not alone, and that I'm seeing, and we parents and other professionals are seeing exactly what you're seeing. One of the things I do want everyone to realize at this time is that I believe in a theory of you've got to get ahead of the cart. You've got to get ahead of the horse before it tramples you, and you've got to share with kids truths about life before the world does. Sometimes we're so busy protecting our kids, thinking that they're not going to be exposed to things, and then all of a sudden, they hear it from a friend, and then that's what they believe, and we find out months or years later that they've known about it all along. And that is not a good place for our children to be. They need to hear from their parents, from the people that love them the most and protect them and would give their lives for them. They need to hear this information about life in the correct manner. So I would say first, get ahead of the cart if you can. Ask your kids. They're going to tell you, no, I don't want to hear that. They're going to act embarrassed. But the truth of the matter is they're in the hallways, they're out in their phones, they're in social media, they're getting the information. They're getting it, and they're getting it wrong, and they're getting exposed to things in an improper manner. So get ahead of the cart, even if you are uncomfortable. I have a friend who is an amazing counselor and a leader of several counseling agencies, I should say, or practices here in the North Texas area, Michelle Nietert, Nietert. And she does a wonderful, I think it's a podcast, it may be just a blog, but it might be both, called Uncomfortable Conversations. So if you are looking for a great resource on working with teens, that's a fantastic one. You can reach out to her. You can also bring her to your small group, to your school, to your parenting group, and she will talk about things and give you really great insight and tools on how to speak with your children. So check out Michelle Nietert. And the easiest thing is probably just to go onto my Facebook page, Erin Kincaid, and find her as a friend, and then friend her or reach out that way and tell her I sent you so that she knows what you're looking for in that parenting conversation. So first of all, know that you're not alone. Second of all, get ahead of the cart. Don't be afraid. You cannot be afraid. I say this is war, and somebody's out for our children to kill, steal, and destroy their lives, their future, their joy, their contentment, their peace, their stability, their mental health. We cannot be foolish and think that this is an easy game or that this is just going to turn out okay. If you are a parent that likes to put your head in the sand, you need to get it out. You cannot ignore this anymore. You've got to have those uncomfortable conversations. You've got to be willing to talk about these things with your kids, and you have to be willing to continue to keep asking. Your children are not going to tell you the first time you ask about something. So make sure you keep asking. What's going on? What do you know about this? What do you think this is? What did so-and-so tell you this was? What is your definition of? Ask those kind of questions and make them answer until you have a good understanding of what's going on. In the Bible, Matthew 7:17 and 12:34, Matthew 12:34, we learned that out of the heart comes everything out of the mouth, right? So whatever our mouth is spewing is what we are on the inside. So if you have a teenager who is struggling, that's having dark thoughts, that's having a nasty attitude, that's grumpy all the time, I'm going to expose some of my personal life. My own teen boy has been behaving that way, or had been until recently. And here's the deal. I kept being told by people around me, even though I'm a counselor and I knew better, I kept being told by people, oh, he's just 14. Oh, that's just the way they are. And it felt wrong, and I didn't want to accept it, but I did. I said, okay, I guess that's just the way it is. But that's not the case. That's not how 14-year-olds have to act. There was something in his heart and in his soul that was not right, and now it's come to the surface, and we're dealing with that. But if you sense that something's off with your teen, don't ignore it. Don't accept that for face value, that that's just the way they are. That's not the way teens have to be. It's not the way kids have to be. From out of the mouth comes the truth of the heart. We need to understand what's going on in their hearts. If they're grumpy, if they're mean, if they seem really sullen or depressed, deal with it. Get in there. Find out what it is. Get them to a counselor. Get them to help. If someone is blaming everything on someone else or ignoring the issues in their heart and just continuing down an unhealthy path, we have to sometimes have those hard questions of, is the person or the teen in my life, how much do they know Jesus? Do they truly know Jesus? Do they truly have a relationship with him that is a healing, counseling, caring relationship? Because I know that as an adult believer, when I hit hard times, yes, I still have emotions. Yes, I still struggle. And sometimes things like anger and those kind of things come out of me. But the point is I have some place to go to and recenter my mind on and my heart on. And if we have people in our lives that do not truly know who the Lord is, then the healing is going to be that much more difficult. Now, remember, I am a biblical counselor, so I obviously see things from that vantage point. I know that God is all healing, all encompassing, all loving, and a great God that will not leave us in our pain and our misery to just dwell. He wants us to be healthy. He wants us to be joyful and content and have his peace beyond understanding. That's the life that he promises once we yoke ourselves with him. So if we have someone in our lives, a teenager or a child that doesn't seem to be walking or at least pointing that direction or moving in that direction sometimes, then we really need to evaluate, where is their walk? Maybe they are spiritually dead. And I have some parents that come in and are convinced their kids accepted Jesus at 5 years old and they got baptized and, they should not be here. But the truth of the matter is, folks, is sometimes that's what mom and dad wanted them to do. And sometimes that action doesn't take root in their lives, and you have to be willing to face that and willing to face the fact that we might need to start from the beginning with our kids to teach them how to walk with the Lord, trust the Lord, have those behaviors that are godly and that are centered on Christ and are coming out of the heart naturally. So I'm going to continue talking over the next couple of weeks about more teenage issues. I wanted to just expose those things, those hard questions we sometimes have to ask ourselves when it comes to in dealing with teenagers, especially if we're believers. And since I am a biblical counselor, that's what I deal with, is teenagers and families that want Christ in their life. So you have to ask those hard questions. Does my teenager have a relationship with Jesus? Yes, they may have accepted Jesus back in the day, and they may have been going to church with you, and they may even be active in their youth group. But what do their actions and their mouth and their heart put out in the world? If it is really off balance, if it is not growing good fruit, as we learn in Matthew, then you have to ask those tough questions. How is your relationship with the Lord? They may have accepted Jesus, but they may be ignoring his mandates on their life. And by mandates, I mean those things, those boundary lines that God gives us so that we can live healthy, happy lives. So face those 3 questions and 3 things in your life right now, parents. Ask yourself those tough questions. Am I getting in front of the cart? Am I asking my kids these questions? Am I facing truths about my children? Am I sticking my head in the sand and ignoring issues? Ask yourself those tough things that I just talked about, and then visit back here soon, I hope in the next day or so, to have the second part of this where we start delving into different issues that will help you with your teens and help you raise them to be healthy, God-fearing, God-loving members of society, but also strong believers. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Higher Hopes Counseling Podcast. Once again, if you ever need a session one-on-one, if you're not near to North Texas, I do virtual and phone sessions. I do that with the teens as well. I love working with teens. They're fantastic and they're such sweet spirits, and I really love helping them get out of their funk and understand where God wants them in their lives and all that he has for them. So if you need a virtual session, feel free to visit higherhopescounseling.com, or if you'd like to meet me in person, of course, you could use that same website. And my office is located in Cattle Mills, right outside of Rockwall, which is just east of Dallas. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you soon as I continue the series on issues with teens.